Hi, PJ Scott here, your Navy Waves veteran, Vietnam era. I'm glad you could join us on Veterans Forum. With me today is Vern Schmidt, and he is a World War II Army vet. Vern, welcome to the set of Veterans Forum.
Thank you, PJ.
And thank you for your service.
Thank you. Appreciate those words.
Now, we're going to start at the beginning. You had parents.
I definitely had parents.
Yes, and I want to believe you knew them. So tell us when you were born and where, and a brief synopsis of your childhood.
I was born in Reedley in January of 1926. So one more month and I'll turn 89.
Oh, okay.
And grew up in Reedley, attended grammar school, middle school, and graduated from Reedley High School in 1943.
Oh, okay. So you really weren't able to join until a little later because you were still a very young man then when Pearl Harbor happened.
I was 16 at Pearl Harbor.
And what are your memories of that? Because literally everyone who was conscious knows where they were at when they heard about Pearl Harbor.
Well, of course, we didn't have communication like we have today, but it was on a Sunday. It was Sunday afternoon. We had attended church, and another close family friends, his name was Vernon as well as mine, so we were chums together. And we were walking from church downtown, just going to have maybe a hot dog or a hamburger or something downtown.
Right.
And we walked by a grocery store which had a kind of an open front, and we heard a radio in there blaring and talking about the bombing of Pearl Harbor.
From the NBC newsroom in New York, President Roosevelt said in a statement today that the Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, from the air.
You know, it hardly registered at first, although we had heard news broadcast of the negotiations trying to be ironed out in Washington, and we knew about that, and so we were looking for peace, but all of a sudden we're at war.
Now, did you, because some vets will be very honest, they didn't have a clue of Pearl Harbor? Where's Pearl Harbor?
Well,
we all got to find out real quick and would never forget it, but there were those who had never heard of Pearl Harbor until December 7th, 41.
Right. Well, we, of course, in school we'd had geography, so we had a history teacher that was very well versed and shared, you know, the Hawaiian Islands and some of the World War I happenings of our ships and Navy and so forth. So we were cognizant of where this was.
You had a very good history teacher.
Yeah, I certainly did.
Yes, yeah, because many didn't seem to know where it was at. Yeah. So what was the feeling of your family? I mean, do you remember comments your parents made about it?
Well, you know, growing up in Reedley, we had a lot of Japanese friends.
Right.
I had great friends in school. I mean, they'd fight you tooth and tongue because they liked you. And we liked them. They were good people.
Right.
So, and that, you know, and our parents, of course, were the wise people of the town. So they kind of tried to influence us as kids. And so it was kind of it was hard in there because right away, here's our friends and their buddies or their friends or their relatives are bombing us. So it kind of made a little barrier at first, but they are still my friends today, good friends.
That's always difficult. My ex-husband's parents were German, and they lived in Pennsylvania and had an egg farm. And the townspeople were so infuriated about, I guess it was the Lusitania or what, some ship was sunk by the Germans. Right. And boy, they burned their hatchery down. And by the time they got to Ohio, they dropped the von Kauf off the last of their name, I can tell you that. So that happens to whatever ethnic group. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's really sad.
Reedley was more or less a pretty heavily German village or town at that time.
Scandinavian as well.
So there was little resentment there. But, you know, I feel we united as a people, as a nation. We united together right away, and we saw that they were Americans of German descent. They were Americans of Japanese descent.
Right.
And
Yes.
a few Italians of German, they were Americans of
Right.
Italian descent. So
Right, right.
we overlooked that, I believe. We had enough cultural bringing up that we could overlook that and see through it.
Now, did you have some cousins that immediately went off to join the war?
Well, my brother enlisted in the Army Air Corps in '42.
Oh, so he was a little older than you then,
He
huh?
graduated from high school in '42 and went right into the service almost immediately. So, and then we had neighbors that enlisted.
Right.
And I had some classmates. I had skipped a year in school, so I was about a year younger than most of my classmates. So I think there was 3 of my classmates who enlisted who were already 18, and so they went on into the service.
Well, yeah, we talked on a previous show that you had a very military-rich family in World War I, so your family was raised to do their duty
Right,
to the
right.
country.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so at what point was it time for you decided you were going to go in, or did you get that famous note from Uncle Sam?
Well, upon graduation, I drove up to Hammer Field here in Fresno and tried to, or made an effort to enlist in the cadet program. I took various written tests, oral tests, physical tests, passed everything, and they said, you know, we go in cycles. So you go home, and when your cycle comes up, we'll call you. Well, I turned 18 before that cycle, so, and I received one of those greetings in the big brown envelope that said, you have been selected. So I did not, that did not work out for me. So I wound up in the Army, took my basic training at Camp Roberts, which was
Right.
about 130 miles from
Oh, no, it's
from
not
Reedley.
far. Now, where was this picture taken before you
This
left?
picture was taken in Fresno here.
Oh, okay.
And that's my brother's hat. He preceded me overseas by about 3 months, so
Oh.
he passed on his garrison cap to me.
Oh,
And
okay.
so I had my picture taken in that just like he did.
Right, right.
But,
And did you both come safely home?
did he?
Did both, well,
Well,
yeah. Yeah.
he was wounded and captured during the time of the Battle of the Bulge.
Oh,
And so he was behind the barbed wire till Easter Sunday in 1945. He was liberated, actually by a unit that I was later a part of. But our communication again was a 3-cent stamp that we sent back and forth to Mom
Right.
and Dad and
Right.
whatever. So he didn't know where I was. I did not know where he was. Just 2 weeks before he was liberated on Easter Sunday, I did receive a letter from my mom stating that they had received word from the War Department that he had been taken prisoner. Prior to that, he was just listed as missing in action. And so I knew he was a prisoner of war of the Germans. I did not know where he was. He did not know where I was. He didn't even know I was over in Europe. Because he was, ironically, he was captured the day I left for overseas.
that's kind of bizarro. Yeah.
Well, but we didn't
But
know
those
that.
things happen, yeah.
We didn't know those dates till
Right,
later.
right,
But,
right.
So,
I'm sure your parents are very worried about both of you, but particularly when they get word from the government, that couldn't have been happy news.
we did. My mother was the worrier of the family. My dad had a real solid trust in God and believed that God would bring us both safely home. And he stood on God's word during that time.
Well, amen, but unfortunately, God gives us all free will, and some people abuse it. So while
That's-
I believe in God's
that's
will,
true.
things happen that cannot be God's will. We see that here today, don't we? So, well,
our-
that's good that they both got back.
Our little church in Reedley had a plaque up in front with with a star by every boy's name. There was about 40 of us that left, and every single one came home. My brother was probably the only prisoner of war. A number of them were wounded, but everyone came home. The church had a 24-hour prayer chain.
You know, I've heard of that kind of thing. Didn't they get started in England? And by God, everyone, they might have been a little bit shot up or beat up, but they came home.
Right.
Okay, so there's something about 24-hour prayer coverage, yes.
Right. So, you know, we're grateful. My brother and I, you know, my brother's still living also. We're just grateful that people stood behind us in many ways.
Amen.
And prayer was one big way that they stood behind us. You know, I can recite day after day of different things that happened that that's God's providence. I don't ask why, I just accept it and thank Him for it.
Yeah, yes, with a thankful heart. So, okay, let's jump in. You get done with basic. Did you get any kind of training before you went to Europe?
Well, I had basic infantry training. I also had a light artillery training, which was a godsend later on because I learned to drive Army vehicles and I learned to handle other than an M1 rifle. So I had a little bit of a background there that was an asset after the war was over. But I did not finish basic. The bulge had begun on, in fact, today's the 18th, just 2 days ago.
Oh.
69 years, or 70 years ago, the bulge broke there in the Ardennes. And they cut my basic training shut just like that and sent us home to get our house in order. And within 2 weeks from New York, I was on the front lines fighting. So, and the fastest thing we had, I guess you'd say, was a train. I went by train to the East Coast, boarded the Queen Mary.
Oh, the Queen Mary, okay.
Which was able to travel by itself in 6 days across in a zigzag pattern. They could outmaneuver any German submarine by every 7 seconds. They would zig and then zag and then zig and then zag. And by that timing, they were able to evade a torpedo, so to speak. Although the Germans claimed they sank the ship 3 times. But we landed in Glasgow, Scotland after 6 days, and by train down to Southampton in England. And I got on a troop ship, took us out into the channel over toward Le Havre. Le Havre was, of course, right next to where the D-Day landings were, so the debris of ships was still very cognizant. So we had to rappel over the ship on ropes down into like a Higgins boat, about 50 of us, and then we pushed on shore on the beach there at Le Havre. Of course,
was that rather chaotic?
It had to be during D-Day. It wasn't for us because nobody was shooting at us.
Well, no, we all know it was more than chaotic on D-Day, but I just was kind of wondering how it was for you.
No, it wasn't. You know, we waded to shore a little bit because of the ship. The front end dropped down. We waded through the water, but no big deal. We walked to a huge railroad station, which had been erected since the war because of the bombing and so forth. And we were ushered inside, and I heard I looked around this huge building. I hear a band playing, and it was Glenn Miller's band was entertaining the troops as they came and disembarked and so forth.
Wow,
and they fed us and entertained us with Glenn Miller's band. And at the very time, he was also MIA at that time. They had not found him yet, or didn't have a definite clue as to what had happened to him. But we listened to Glenn Miller's band.
Well, that must have got your mind off, well, I'm here now, what's next? Sweet Jesus, what's next? Yeah.
Well, things happened.
Yes.
As I said, 2 weeks from New York, I was front lines fighting. This took a week to get across, and then a week to go by by the 40 and 8s, the old boxcar.
Right.
We rode in up to into northern France, right near the country of Luxembourg, and there we boarded. There we received our M1 rifles and our ammunition, and.
Now, I know you told me that you were under the generalship of Patton, but do you remember any of your big division officers' names at all?
Our generals?
Well, I know the generals, but
Yes, I do.
yeah.
We had, during World War II, the 90th Division had 5 different generals. Some, a couple of them, according to Patton or to the superiors, General Omar Bradley and Eisenhower, did not match up to what they felt they should be, so they were relieved. But shortly after the D-Day landings and about into the month of August, the 90th suffered some severe casualties. The cemetery at Omaha Beach, which is about 10,000 GIs, 1 out of every 10 came from the 90th in the Normandy area from casualties. So, and part of it was leadership. But they sent us a general called his name was General McLean, top-notch general. And then he was superseded by General Van Fleet, who also served as a general in Vietnam, Korea and Vietnam, both.
Oh, wow.
Top-notch generals.
Uh-huh.
And then General Van Fleet was replaced by General Herbert Ernest, who was an armor general that Patton selected to come and become I served under him through and including peacetime, after the war was over there in May. I met General Patton one time. He didn't meet me, but I saw him.
I see. Yeah. Yeah.
And General Ernest, I didn't meet him personally, but I saw him. He came to our company
Now
after the
tell
war.
us just an overview of some of the battles you were involved in. We don't need all the gritty stuff. Just give us an overview of the battles in which you participated in.
Well, we were brought right up to the front in the Siegfried Line and ushered into in fact, there's the church. That church was all basically bombed out. The top was blown off, and the truck dropped 3 of us off and said, "You sit in that church and some guy will come to you when it gets dark."
Oh,
So
okay.
we heard artillery shells coming over. In fact, I sat right there in that pew. Now this picture is taken about 3 months ago, 69 years after I sat in that pew, very same place,
Wow.
waiting to be taken up to the front lines
so you
at night.
visited this area September, October?
This picture was taken about the 1st of September
Okay.
of this year.
2014.
Yeah.
If the shows repeat it, you'll know when it was.
We met some people there whose son worked as a church custodian, and I said, "Can I go in this church?" He said, "Sure." So he took our family, and our family was over there, and I said, "I remember sitting here 69 years ago."
Wow.
And we could hear the artillery shells coming over.
Uh-huh.
So they took us from here over into the bunkers, and that picture right up there, the second one down, and the one above it that's the front of the house. This is the back of the house. That top window up there, I was observing of there to report what was happening in the town, the village below us, and I took a hail.
And the name of the village, do you remember the name of the village?
Yes, it was called Waxwheeler. It was on the Prum River in Germany.
Oh, okay, all right.
And I took a hail of machine gun bullets right through that window, and I was laying on the floor and hoping that they could not depress that gun any lower because they were coming right through the window.
Oh, Lord.
A book was written on that later on by a Catholic priest wife, a Catholic priest sister.
I was going to say, say again?
The priest had told the family, "You stay in that house. I feel God's provision will keep you safe."
Wow.
And so we walked in that house, stayed in there 3 days. but I took a hail of bullets. And later on, the lady of the house and the priest's sister took the priest's daily dialogue of the days in combat and talked about what happened and put a book together. And the subject is God's protection in a hail of bullets.
Very good title.
And I
given
just
the
received
subject.
this book just recently from the German family that we liberated there.
Oh, that is really talk
those are
about going
stories
full circle.
that are and here, of course, this is where I entered combat, was in what they call the Siegfried Line. These are tank traps supposedly built in 1938-39 by Hitler to stop our tanks from getting in to Germany. This was on the border of Belgium and Luxembourg and France, 400 miles of that. These are approximately 40 inches tall, and they're buried 40 inches deep and all rebar. And there they stand today yet as a memory of they did not keep us out. Our American ingenuity, we figured a way to get around that.
Good, good,
So,
good.
but we were able to visit this again just
Now, was your
3 months
entire family ever
Here's,
able to go?
here's our
go
entire
with you?
family. We celebrated, Donna and I celebrated our 68th wedding anniversary in September, and we said we're going to take our family to Europe to celebrate. So
Okay.
we did. Our son became our driver, and we just had one great day. 15 days, we traveled over 2,700 miles.
Right.
As you can see, this kind of chronological, wherever we were, different things. This picture right here, I'm holding a piece of a tank, part of the tank turret, and a piece of a boat off of one of the tanks in a battle that we were involved in against the German SS after we crossed the Moselle River in March of 1945. The gentleman that gave these pieces to me was a little kid, 9 years old at the time, and now he lives there, and his garden, he rototills, and every time he rototills with his little rototiller, he brings up pieces of the tank that was destroyed in his now garden. And
Yeah.
he gave me pieces, like you see, I'm holding him in my hand right up there.
Right.
They took his family, they hid him in a cave while this battle went on for about 3 days. And ironically, the battle against the SS that we were fighting were the same SS group that wounded and captured my brother 2 months prior to that.
God almighty.
So I told my brother later, I said, Glenn, I feel we got revenge because those people would not surrender. So one of my buddies who's still alive was in a company that they named the place Machine Gun Hill. The German SS would not surrender, so most all of them were killed. Their general came up to observe our unit, and one of our snipers got him. I have been to the cemetery right near here where they are all buried. And
Is
their
this
dates,
these crosses here?
yeah.
Okay.
There is so much history. Here's a church that was destroyed. This church was built in 755 AD.
Oh gosh,
by-
I hate hearing
by the
some-
Romans.
Yeah, I hate hearing about really ancient buildings being destroyed in the war. I've always loved history myself. In fact, I plan to teach history among other subjects at a junior college. So that really, yeah.
There's a marker for Utah Beach where the 90th Division landed on D-Day. And there's St. Miraglise. There's the parachute of the paratrooper that caught him up on the
Oh, and that
steeple.
famous movie.
Right.
Yes, wasn't that Red Buttons?
Yes,
The
yes,
actor that
that's
got
it,
stuck,
that's it.
couldn't
Yeah.
hear probably for
Yeah.
months after
The
all
Longest
the
Day
Yes.
was filmed right. The Longest Day was
Right.
filmed right there. You know. So we just covered a lot. We liberated the Flossenburg concentration camp on the German Czechoslovakian border. This is one of the guardhouses. There's another one. Here's a picture that one of my comrades actually picked up out of the guardhouse when they were liberating it, and it shows some of the atrocities. There's a man being hung. My buddy didn't want these pictures. He gave them to me. The museum asked if they could review them. I sent them to them. They reviewed them. They identified that man as a Polish man, identified his family,
Oh, gee.
and his family came to Flossenburg just a few years ago to have closing.
Right.
So
right.
there's a picture that would have been destroyed.
And they would have never known.
Never known.
It would have, you know, what mysteries are fun to watch on TV, particularly PBS mysteries. I love those. But in real life, and I think sometimes some of us do get a mystery, and you can go to the grave and not know.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
we're coming to an end. You
Already.
believe that? So when you came home from war, what kind of career did you have?
Well, I got married the very next month because Donna and I had waited 19 months. I was gone, and on the 20th month we got married. And I tell the story. We didn't have a job, we didn't have a home, we didn't have a car, but we had each other. And that, in those days, that's all that mattered. We knew God would provide whatever we needed.
Right.
And
right.
so I went in the field of agriculture. I became parts manager of a local farm implement store there in Reedley. And we expanded over the years. I served them 42 years and some odd months.
Well, that's a long, proud family tradition for, and in the San Joaquin Valley. We're all
Right.
about agriculture.
So-
Vern, it's been a delight having you. I wish we had more time. Somebody needs to take notes and write a book about you.
Well,
You have some children that might be aiming to do that? Oh, here we got
I
a
did that
start.
in 1996 for my family.
Oh, good,
And
good.
if you wish to have that copy, you can have it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, and God bless you. This is PJ Scott signing off, and I want to say God bless all World War II veterans and all veterans, period. We all arrive on Earth and enlist in the military at different times, and whether you go in battle or you stay at home, you did what your country wanted you to do. God bless you all. See you next time.